Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Karen with Naturally with Karen. And we're going to talk about heart issues tonight. You can see it's dark. Look at this. It's dark already at 5:45. Okay. So sometimes we do them in the morning and sometimes we do them at night. We're going to talk about heart issues and with a specific emphasis on atrial fibrillation and what's currently being done about that. Why is it happening? Can we possibly prevent this? What kind of procedures are done? Now, before we get started, I want to make sure you're really crystal clear that I am not a Western allopathic doctor. I'm not a cardiologist. I'm a shaman, and most people would see that the work that I do individually, one-on-one, intensively, confidentially, is the closest thing today is a coach. So someone that sits down with you and, talks about the parts and aspects of prevention and reversing disease possibly that you're able to take on yourself that we used to do a long time ago. For that reason, I call that original medicine. Okay? So we're going to talk about atrial fibrillation. And if you're in the workplace or you're at a college or a school, you probably have an AED device, which is an automatic electrical defibrillator. So we're going to defibrillate you if you had a sudden cardiac onset issue, a clot, a stroke, or not a stroke, but a heart attack, some kind of a cardiac issue. Now, with the heart is your largest electrical organ. It's a larger electrical output than the brain, okay? So we have what we know as an EKG, an electrocardiogram, and that's typically done by a cardiologist, one who is a cardiac doctor, a cardiologist who studies and helps people with heart issues. The first thing I want to say is that if you're having extensive heart issues or anything at all that's concerning you, legally, medically, to be safe all the way around, it's better to always consult your doctor first. And when I say that, I mean your primary care physician, your cardiologist, or someone else that you've been recommended or referred to go see. With that in mind, again, I'm going to give you pieces and aspects of care and self-care that you can do for yourself that will make a tremendous difference and possibly could even cause you to find the root cause of why you're having and manifesting some of these issues. Okay? So when we think about the heart has got to be a natural rhythm. And really quick, since I'm waiting for a few other people to kind of join on tonight so they don't miss a big chunk of it, and I'm not blathering too much. We make a beat, a heartbeat. We snap to the beat. We tap to the beat with our feet. And the reason why my thumbnail shows you the drum that I received from my most significant teacher of African hand drumming was Babatunde Olatunji, who's a Yoruba man who came from Nigeria and was the first African man to really bring instruction to wide amounts of people about African hand drumming. So this is my drum, and I actually was showing you where Bob assigned my drum here to Sister Karen in 1992. So now, Rastafari elders, and I'm going to kind of put it between my legs here for just a moment. Always knew that the first primary beat that we played on the drum, which was a major source of communication, was heartbeat. get into our discussion about the heart and atrial fibrillation. But the music that we have today takes the heart outside of its natural rhythm. Our lifestyle today takes our heart and our entire electrical system, and it's very taxing to it. So we're constantly being stunned and surprised and in our mental, states when we're watching horror movies and, going into scary rides and haunted houses. And we like to push the envelope a little bit. And there's nothing wrong with that, except that if we have too much mental stress and too much stimulation all the time, you turn around and someone's locking a car and tooting beeps and the phones are going off and there's so much noise pollution all around us all the time that it takes us away from what I just played, which were villages with mamas and babies and people, growing agriculture and in a more relaxed way. And elders like myself at 57 remember a time when people weren't always doing this everywhere you went. They weren't always staring at their phone. They weren't always attached to a device of some sort. Now, that was much more nourishing and nurturing to the heart than it is to constantly being bombarded with chirping alarms and loud ringer tones on phones. And, everywhere you turn, there's so much noise going on. You go into a store or a place to eat, and there's just constantly music being played. You go into the grocery store, and it's just, it makes people hyper impulsive and have attention difficulties. And eventually, when they get worn down, they go into many of the maladies of all the different names. So what I do when I work with people is to break things down. If they say, yeah, I know all that, just give me what it is that I need to know so I can kind of get things figured out, then I'm going to work that way. And if they say, give me the story behind it, for about 15 minutes of my session today, let's do that. And I love that. So let me show you one of the ways I would be, preparing for someone. And in 34 years, someone has come and said, I've got myasthenia gravis, I've got lupus, I've got blankety blank and blankety blank. And there are times that, with all due respect, we need to have a name for things. I get that. But I worked in the legal industry for almost 18 years in judges' chambers, and I got to know legalese really well. In fact, I got to know a lot of medicalese because I was constantly using the Tabor's medical dictionary, just like the Black's legal dictionary. I'd have to look up what different kinds of diagnoses meant, how to spell them correctly, and everything else before we had some of the technology that we have today. So, and because I learned from a lot of the old ways with the grandmothers in the 1960s forward, and then added to my tool bag or medicine bag, however you want to call it, whatever's more comfortable to you, doesn't matter, I became more and more proficient in understanding what was really happening underneath and how we could have prevented it. And then if we could prevent it, what could we do to become much more sustainable? How could we build a much more viable, crucial world family? And that's really what's underneath my work here that you see me presenting. And I'm excited to present it with you. I mean, I actually look forward to this when I'm going to do, now that I've gotten over getting myself on the camera. Okay. My life isn't the easiest either, but I'm here, I'm giving you this medicine. And there are times that we're absolutely vibrant, and there are times that we're tired and we're worn down with what's going on in our lives. Okay. Let's get started. Atrial fibrillation. Atria, I looked it up under a baby name just to kind of see what was some of the etymology behind atrial or the atrium. We speak of an atrium as kind of a room, don't we? Like a plant room. And it comes from an ancient Roman, meaning a certain hall or section of a home. But under the baby name website, it's a female name, and it's actually a star name. In fact, it says that it's, I say allegedly, it was a star in the constellation Triangulum Australe, Australe. Triangulum, doesn't that sound kind of Harry Potter? I think it does, okay? So atrial fibrillation, you got to get used to saying that because that's kind of a hard word to say in a way, because we automatically want to say frib, but it's fib, F-I-B. It's a fib. Okay. All right. So we have this beat, we have this natural heartbeat. We are living waters. We are about 72% water, about 28% minerals. We need to be born with an adequate supply. We need to have had mother and grandmother and great grandmother and great great grandmother with an adequate supply, or eventually our generational groups will start to have genetic mutations. There will be more birth defects, right? Especially if you combine heavy or toxic elements, metals like arsenic, lead, cadmium, uranium, etc., that are found in environments, places around our home, our workplace, our schools. We have to be more and more aware of that today. So I'm going to put my reading glasses on, and I've got a little bit, not because I'm going to read to you, but I've got some notes here because I really want to stay on task in terms of, what I want to share with you. I put a lot of energy into this. If our living waters, this 72% water, just like our great Mother Earth is 71, 72, depending on who you listen to, percent of water, and they are disturbed, and we start producing as mother genetic defects from birth, okay? Genetic mutations, mineral deficits. And there's ways to find out if we're minerally funded enough before we create this. So that's the prevention part, okay? So how are they disturbed, our living waters? Fret, worry, stress. And as the elder Dr. Dr. Sebi said, a violation, okay? A violation in our nature, in our environment, with what we've done to the animals. And now we are consuming this. We're consuming the waters, the air, the earth, because the food is grown in the soil, it's sprayed, etc. So it's a violation. And I really like the way that the honorable ancestor, Dr. Sebi, put that. You can hear that in some of his YouTube videos that are on YouTube. So the heart has 4 chambers, and the upper 2 chambers are referred to as the atria, which is a short word for the atrium, meaning the rooms, okay? Without going into too much, physiology here, they're the upper 2 chambers of the heart. The 2 lower are called the ventricles, okay? And they circulate blood throughout the body, and they help you stay circulated. Animals typically have 2 atria on the top. Fish have 1. So fish have 2 chambers total. Humans have 4, okay? So we're animals. We're mammals. We're vertebrate mammals, okay? Heart problems are basically a living hell. And I think it's kind of interesting because the oldest Germanic religion, going back to the Norse times, N-O-R-S-E, Norse times, Hel, H-E-L, was a goddess, and she was a trickster. And she allegedly, as it was written up long ago, was allowed or allotted a portion of the dead, okay? So Hel is a goddess. Now, we have these automatic electric or external defibrillators that are in our jobs and our homes and everything else. And you're going to understand even more so why we have those in these cases, in these environments that we go in today, okay? What does an AED do? It basically checks your heart's rhythm, and then it basically sends a shock, right? If you've ever been to a Red Cross first aid or CPR course, they now include the AED section in most of them so that you're going to be capable to know how to be a responder if someone's in trouble. I mean, I had that as part of my CPR course. So the electrodes are placed on the chest so that they're able to measure the cardiac output, the electrical signal. If you look at a group card called Heart Math Organization in Boulder Creek, California, which is where I come from. I'm a California native of 42 years, now living in Minnesota, wishing she was home, but everything has changed. And Heart Math studies the coherent heart field. I've taken a course with them and really enjoyed it. If you're not functioning on all cylinders, because you know me, I'm a shaman. I'm not a Western allopathic doctor. So again, I'm not giving you medical advice. I'm telling you what I do for my clients to help them to get themselves well on the parts that they can do. And most often the cardiologists think of it as very complimentary because I'm not trying to usurp, what they're recommending or what they have to do for their patients, my clients, okay? So if you're not functioning on all cylinders, remember we used to use that talk with the car, your two upper chambers, the atrium, the atria, are not functioning correctly, right? Or below the ventricles, you're going to have what's called congenital heart disease, okay? So it's like looking at, what people call evolution, whether you believe in it or you don't. We all have differing opinions. Frogs have 3 and mammals have 4, okay? So these lower chambers are called your ventricles. If they're not on time or out of synchronization with nature, your nature, external nature, Mother Nature, right? Then in the allopathic lens, there's another big word, another big Harry Potter term. You're going to have ventricular dyssynchrony. You're not synchronized. You're out of tune with nature. That's simple, right? So the shaman, the coach, naturally with Karen, sees this as being out of sync. So from the mind-body aspect, I'm looking to see that what's out of sync in your life. What's not syncing up for you? Relationships, the type of work that you're doing, maybe someone is doing a type of work that feels very degrading to their personal nature. They're out of sync with what they believe in, but they've got to do this job because they've got to make a living for themselves. They're trapped. So there's more than one reason. There's mind-body reasons. There's out of rhythm reasons. There's dietary reasons, and we're going to cover that in just a moment here, okay? Now, some people have, like I just said a moment ago, a defect from birth, okay? So that defect from birth can affect the mechanics of your heart. You might have an issue with a valve, and most of us have heard of the mitral valve prolapses, right? So if mom was underfunded with magnesium and mom was underfunded with iron, which is why I want my clients to go to my website at naturallywithkaren.com and get that hair sample. Get that hair testing called an HTMA, a profile 2, and let's get an 8-page report to find out your mineral levels, any heavy toxic metals, your metabolic type, and what kind of health trends are going on. So we can prevent these kinds of things from happening. Okay? So why is atrial fibrillation happening? It's happening because, where's my book? Here it is. Let me grab it. Okay. Thyroid. I wrote this book for under $20. You can grab it as an ebook on naturallywithkaren.com. You can grab it on Amazon. I'm not just a peddler. I took 3 years to put this together. And thanks to Anthony Carmen, who got it done and got it into a book, made it official, helped me dramatically. This is in a book for you. My previous live stream tells you all the chapter names. It is clear cut, crystal clear, common sense. Get your thyroid functioning. Your thyroid, I call it in the book, your thermostat. How hot and cold you are, how your heart runs. In fact, Dr. Brownstein and other doctors say that tachycardia, think of it again in a vehicle term, your speedometer, your heart started to have a lot of palpitations and fluctuations due to what? Magnesium, thyroid, diet, stress. These are not rocket science issues. These are issues that coaching can help you with, help you keep yourself accountable in a very pleasant and fun way, help you to fix yourself so that when you go in and work with your cardiologist who can't sit there and hold your hand every day, who can maybe schedule to see you once a week or once every 6 months or maybe once a year, depending, or maybe you can't see him at all or her. These are issues that with coaching or reading a book, you can start to make a difference with getting your hair tissue. Hair is a tissue. It extrudes from the scalp. We cut less than a teaspoon, mail it off to a 30-plus year lab. Get it tested and find out what's really going on. Better than a blood serum test for this reason alone, okay? Thyroid is one of the reasons for atrial fibrillation. This is what most people call your master gland. Hot, cold, hormones, everything. Super important, okay? Glands are very important. Your minerals, like I just talked about with the hair tissue mineral, what supplements do you need? What kinds of foods should you start eating more of? Well, when we do the coaching and review your hair tissue mineral analysis, you're going to know. No more mystery. And by the way, they're not expensive. They're $125 plus $750 for the 2 times I've got to ship back and forth to you. I mail you your kit. I email you your results. Later, I email you a nice hard copy patient report so you could take it in and show it to your cardiologist or your primary care physician. Alcohol use and abuse. Obviously, alcohol changes things, right? So if you're a very minimal drinker, maybe not. But if you're someone who's drinking every single night and someone who's got a problem with drinking alcohol, well, chances are that might be interfering with your heart. It does. So if you're getting up and drinking coffee in the morning and jump starting your heart, think of it that way. And then at night, you're always drinking your wine to slow your heart down. You're manipulating the poles or the natural rhythm or the sync of life. And you don't want to get in those habits, which is why coaching is particularly beneficial. Stress, drama, toxic people in relationships. We can't get away from them. I'm helping someone right now through heroin addiction, and it's stressing me out. I'm much more stressed than I would normally be at all. But it is what it is. We can't force people to do things, and we support them through things, and it does take a toll on us, right? So we want to have the reserves built up inside of ourselves to be able to handle stress, because it will come, okay? Toxic elements, like I talked about a moment ago, lead, mercury, arsenic, all of those and more are going to be on your 8-page hair tissue mineral analysis profile 2. Valve issues. If you're born with valve issues and the valves and the blood vessels aren't working right, we got to do whatever we can between your cardiologist and me and you to get you really healing yourself and regenerating. Now, where does electricity come from, right? Well, Dr. Sabi, brilliantly talked about that, especially with certain herbs like yellow dock, sarsaparilla root, and many others. I am also a certified herbalist about 20 years ago through American Herbal School, and copper, iron, and zinc are really significant pieces of how you keep your electricity working for you. Your blood pressure is another issue. If someone starts to notice, your primary care physician or your cardiologist, or you're going into Walgreens or Walmart to get your prescriptions picked up, and you put your arm in the cuff and you're up over 120 as a systolic, and your diastolic is over 80, we need to be a little bit concerned. And for me, that means that's less of a reaction of let's get you to the pharmacy and get a blood pressure medication. Let's see how your thyroid's functioning. Let's take a look at your diet. Let's take a look and see what minerals are you missing so your body can stop going into the alert and raising your blood pressure, because it's a form of communication. Okay? Now, I told you that I was going to, if you're on my Facebook page, so you don't want to wait, you didn't tell me anything. Bless up, Kim. I told you on my Facebook page at Naturally with Karen that I was going to talk about atrial fibrillation, the TEE test, and I was going to talk about one more thing. So the second thing was the TEE, okay? The TEE is a way to measure using sound waves or ultrasound. Now, if you're a person that's really into natural lotus birth and allowing the stem cells to pass through and do everything as you'd really love to do, which is how I set out to do things with my son 23 years ago, and not do circumcision and kind of, go back to, if God puts something there, then chances are it's meant to be there, right? Maybe we don't need to cut it off. Maybe we can start to rethink our decisions. Well, the TEE stands for, and I looked it up and did a little bit of research because I don't give the TEE test. I give my clients ways to prevent and heal that are pieces I can provide as a non-Western allopathic doctor. A TEE is a trans-esophageal echocardiography. Now, do you understand, understand why I say that sometimes the medical ease and the legal ease, which I'm well acquainted with, I read thousands of medical abstracts. In fact, in my mid-20s, I had a paper magazine subscription to both the Lancet and the New England Medical Journal of Medicine magazines. Most people in their mid-20s don't have that, especially if I wasn't, not raised in a medical background. But this has been my passion forever. I mean, I love getting to the root of finding out what's going on and why it's happening and how can we help someone on a real, genuine level, okay? A long, thin endoscope is inserted to guide the ultrasound transducer. It's an instrument, okay? So it's sending out waves, getting an image inside of you through your esophagus, and you are awake during this procedure. You're given something to relax you, but you do have to open your mouth and allow this to go down just like an endoscopy, okay? This TEE, which stands for trans-esophageal echocardiography. The echo produces the image on the transducer of the cardio, the heart, because it's bypassing your rib cage and your lungs so that the ultrasound person, the radiology department, can get a good look at your heart. And they're looking for structural issues. They're looking for clots. They're looking to listen a little bit better than with the stethoscope or other ways, okay? And they want to see a picture of your heart. Now, when people talk about atrial fibrillation, and this is dangerous, you could have a heart attack or a stroke, the first thing that you're scared with, I'm not saying they're right or wrong, is that you could have a blood clot. Why do you have a blood clot? Is it just for no good reason because you're just unlucky? Is it just a mystery that you have a blood clot? Or could it be caused by some of the medications that you take, the diet that you participate in, the lifestyle that you take part in, the alcohol that you drink, and the way that you kind of flop on the couch every night? Not blaming you. Geez, I've talked about, in all honesty, how when I was stressed to the gills, I went and I got a couple of donuts, but I paid for it. Well, we all pay for the choices that we make if they're not great choices, okay? But where they scare you is that the blood clot is going to break loose. And if it breaks loose, it's going to do what? It's going to possibly cause a stroke if it's in the brain or the heart. All of a sudden, your electrical system is going to shut down. It's going to damp down. Okay, so there are risks to doing a TEE test. I don't give those tests. I'm just giving information because I'm giving you the information that I would provide a client who came to me who's working with a cardiologist and they're working with a coach, a shaman who's a coach, who provides coaching, okay, who has decades of experience, who breaks it down into practical terms so the client can see things very crystal clear, all right? So the test takes about 30 minutes. You are awake most of the time. The risks are damage to your esophagus. In fact, that's one of the number one places that people develop cancer, and then it spreads through the body, and nobody knows because you have an esophageal sphincter, and it gets so overused with the overeating and the eating that we do as entertainment in today's world. There's eating festivals everywhere. Our holidays are largely about stuffing and cramming and feeding our tongue. And we raise our children to eat for taste and to feed their tongue. You could have bleeding from the long tube inserted. You could have an infection in your esophagus, okay? You could have damage to your esophagus through inserting the tube, especially if you're kind of worn down. You could have a sore throat later. You could have an adverse reaction to the anesthesia. All of those things are possible from most of these forms of testing. So if you have the opportunity to spend $125 and you can cut a little hair and you say, well, I have hemochromatosis. I don't have any hair. I just went through chemo. I don't have any hair. We next take pubic hair. If you don't have pubic hair because you've been through radiation or you've got hemochromatosis, which by the way is excessive iron levels, just like deficient is anemia, excessive is hemochromatosis. And I've worked with that with 3 clients now so far, and one person may be listening. Then we go to finger and toenail clippings, and I send you a little scale that you put on your countertop, and you measure that you have enough. They go into an envelope. You seal the envelope. We're going to send that into the lab. And you can do that anywhere for the hair or fingernail analysis, HTMA Profile 2 under lab testing at naturallywithkaren.com, anywhere but the state of New York. Okay? The last thing, the third thing, atrial fibrillation, the TEE test, because that's currently what most doctors, cardiologists are recommending, is the echocardiogram or the TEE if they want to get in and look a little more. Now, let's say, and I'm going to take a drink of my tea here. Oh, it's still hot. Woo. Do you ever do that? You take a sip and it's too hot. Let's say that we did an echocardiogram. Now we did the TEE test because the doctors got you really concerned. You're concerned that there may be a blood clot. Your heart's rhythm is off. You've seen it for yourself with the wave, right? Your living waters. You've seen it for yourself on the printout, or you were staring at the machine when the EKG technician came over and hooked up the electrodes and you saw what was going on with your heart. Uh-oh, that doesn't look like it's right. So now your cardiologist or your doctor may say, it's been recommended that you do a cardiac ablation. You might have heard that terminology before because women actually get cervical ablations, okay? If they're bleeding extra heavy, they get an ablation, which is, to scrape the uterus, not cervical, a uterine ablation, excuse me. They want to stop all the heavy bleeding that's going on all the time, so they get an ablation of the uterus, and that's scraping of the endometrium. You might hear women talking about endometriosis. Well, in 34 years, I've had the opportunity and the privilege and the honor and the integrity, I might add, in a humble way, to go home and research and dig in out of a passion and develop my wisdom so I can break it down. So when my clients come and they say, well, I'm taking 4 medications, polypharmacy, I'm seeing a cardiologist, let's sit down and talk about, how do you feel? Are you dizzy? Do you feel strong? Are you walking? What does your doctor recommend first? So first, we keep you safe. And then let's look and see what else we can do that we can partner together, you, me, and your doctor or doctors, your team. Let's be a team to get you the best possible. Okay? A cardiac ablation, our third thing in the video, is a procedure. Surgeries, many things that go on in hospitals are procedures. It's a procedure, okay? It can and will scar. This is the definition. I looked it up because I don't do cardiac ablations, but my clients will come and say, I've already had a cardiac ablation, or the doctor's recommending, but my doctor's going to give me 3 months to see if I can kind of get better. So I'd say, well, let's get busy. We should probably coach once a week, ideally, if that's something that you're able to do. And let's see what we can do so that when they go take a look-see again inside of you, check your EKG first. They'll say, whoa, radical improvement. Let's think about this. A cardiac ablation is to scar or destroy tissue in your heart. Did you hear that? Common, Very common. Ask any cardiologist how common it is. Ask your friends and family how common it is. Now, I looked it up, and in quotations, this is verbatim, meaning word for word, verbatim, okay? That's to scar or destroy tissue in your heart that's allowing incorrect electrical signals to cause an abnormal heart rhythm. Okay? Did you get that? We're going to scar or destroy tissue in your heart that would be allowing an incorrect, so that tissue that you scarred or destroyed was allowing an incorrect rhythm to keep going. Now, where I have a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction here is that I have seen that sometimes, I'm careful with how I'm wording this for good reason, if people started to figure out that their copper and zinc and their iron and their minerals, their magnesium in particular, were not balanced, there were heavy toxic elements in their body that needed to be detoxified, meaning oral chelation, sweating, change of lifestyle, and that's what coaching is great at. They could make terrific, substantial, possibly reversal improvement. But what does it take? Reading through a book that has most of it in here that would save you 4 sessions with me, that's $500. Okay? Less than $20. Get the book. $125 plus $750 for shipping. Get the profile number 2 at naturallywithkaren.com under lab testing. And I'm going to go over a couple of others. Okay? At the Mayo Clinic, they talk about this ablation being conducted with diagnostic catheters that are threaded through the blood vessels. Okay? The catheter ablation uses RF. We should know what that is by now. That's radio frequency. What does radio frequency do inside of the body? Well, I don't know. A lot of people would say, doesn't do anything. I disagree. But I've also disagreed since I was pregnant with my son about getting superfluous, meaning too many, ultrasounds done through the medical system when you're pregnant. Yep, you might want to get 1 or 2, definitely not just to determine the baby's sex, but to see if everything's all right and you need to intervene for some reason. Perhaps you do 1 or 2. In the ancient ways, we didn't do any. I'm not saying don't do any. I'm saying I wouldn't do them repeatedly and repeatedly because it's been proven since I was pregnant with my son 23 years ago or a little more that babies move away from the sound wave. And there will still be some people that will vehemently suggest, thank you very much, Kim, with Pure Luminosity. I don't think you're going to hear this anywhere else. I worked 2 hours today putting this together so that I made sure before I put all this together for people that I also wasn't violating what the allopathic Western world sees. Okay. I'm also, part of your lab work, which is on-demand blood testing. I'm going to talk about that here in a minute. So with cardiac ablation, that catheter is inserted, okay, or a pulmonary vein ablation is what it's called, and it's meant to treat your arrhythmia. There's a big word again, which means what? Arrhythmia. Your rhythm is not right, or you're not right within is what you hear me say. And I don't say that as a put down, but I can tell from all these years of being trained from the 60s forward, when I see your footing out on a trail, which is why I would love to have a retreat center where we've got children and adults and elders, and we're sharing this medicine, because right now in a money economy, everyone has to charge. We have to charge. Like what I was intimating was plug a socket into the wall. Everything is a charge, right? Your heart is current. It's electrical. That's why you get an EKG. So instead of charging for everything, I'd like to get us to a place. I'd like all of us to get us to a place. I want to also get us to a place where instead of just treating, we're starting to prevent. All right. Now, let's keep going because I really don't want, I'm already at 40 minutes. I can't believe it. I didn't mean for it to be this long. We talked about the risks to ablation, which is damage to the heart, especially where the catheters are inserted, infection, damages. This is what the medical system is saying, damages to your heart's electrical system on a permanent basis. And the damage can be so intense that you might actually need to be fitted with a pacemaker just from going in and getting this cardiac ablation. So you got to really think this through. Are there other things that you could try? Would your cardiologist be comfortable with you doing some coaching once a week for 3 months or 6 months to see what we can improve before we go through something like this? Because I want to partner with doctors. I'm not here to usurp them. I'm not here to disrespect them or to deny them or to try to take away their business or to say that they're bad. I'm here to say that you have a team of people that are available to help you. So you might need a pacemaker. There's always a risk when you do a procedure with anesthesia, which you will be doing if you get a cardiac ablation. Okay. So now let's say that you have this issue and a clot is discovered inside of your heart. The first thing that's going to happen because of liability is you're going to be prescribed most of the time. I always make sure I'm crystal clear that I'm not saying every time. Most of the time, you're going to be prescribed a blood thinner, which is a medication that's going to go in and artificially thin the blood. Why was your blood thick and viscous and sticky in the first place? Well, that's what you're going to find out in coaching. And I'm not going to spend too much time on that because you hear me talking about why we get thick, sticky blood that produces clots all the time. And there's no mystery to that. And it's also not that you want to fast somebody or put them on an alkaline diet for 3 months and say, okay, let's go ahead and get you off the Coumadin, the warfarin, or the Xarelto, or any of the other medications, because that's not the case either. And when I've helped a client with stage 3 necrotic kidney disease who was on warfarin for years, a Vietnam vet whose testimonial is on my website at Naturally with Karen, Denny Wita, reversed, off warfarin. I had him partner with his doctors, both at the VA and the Mayo Clinic, that this was his decision. This is why he made it. And we made sure to get the blood serum testing through the doctors and the okay before it was done. So we never want to do that as shaman, coaches, guides, is just take people off medication. And I never do that. Okay. I inform the client of the contraindications, the risks, and I do the research just like I did as paralegal for almost 18 years. I give them the knowledge, the information. They go to their doctor. The team talks about everything, and they and their doctors make the decision. I am not going to put my neck out in liability for people in that way because it's not necessary and it's not really advisable. It's just not ethical either. Okay. So blood thinners, clots, strokes, heart attack, blood thinners, clots, strokes, heart attacks, being out of sync with life is the mind body. Okay. Doctors know, okay, that you, and I have seen this for 3 decades. I've known this for 4 decades. Doctors know that you could get in to their office and you could check every possible test to validate if the heart is working fine or not. Is a person safe? Are they going to have a heart attack? And all of the tests can be fine. They can all be in the range. The EKG can be absolutely not patently abnormal. And you can walk out that door and 2 days later, you can drop dead on the floor from a heart attack or a stroke. The tests are not infallible. And I've seen it over and over. Okay. So I want to make sure that I position that in this live stream too. At naturallywithkaren.com, which is my website, my virtual presence is relatively new in the last 3 years. I have been helping people for over 30 years. I have been gaining in knowledge consistently by applying myself on a daily basis and really digging in. And you know what? Most of the first 15 years was with absolutely no pay whatsoever. I took the pay from my jobs. Now, for 16 years, I am licensed, insured for $2 million every single year, business licensed. I have a professional space that I've rented for 16 years, February 1st. I've cut it back to 3 days a week because now I'm working a lot more virtually through a screen like this. You can go to the website at Naturally with Karen. You can click on lab testing, and that is where you can find both hair testing and blood testing. Now, a short note, blood testing can come through your doctor, and if you have insurance and it's going to cover it, and your doctor is willing to order the test for you that you ask for because you're learning with me at Naturally with Karen through a shaman or a coach, then that's great. That's what you should do. However, some people have a substantial deductible on their annual insurance. Doctors, professionals have a family rate that they pay, which is astronomical if they'd have, say, for example, 4 children and 2 adults in a family. That's 6 people that they're insuring on a plan. You might have a $5,000 yearly deductible that you have to meet first for 6 people. In that case, you might want to do on-demand blood testing where you're paying. I'm going to show you the healthy blood vessels combination. Click on my website, click on blood testing, click on the blood test groups that are put together for you. Healthy blood vessels is 175. The inflammation is 159. I don't see your results. No one but you sees your results. You click on it. It goes and gives you a requisition to get your blood test done at any Quest lab. You've probably seen the Quest drivers buzzing up and down the freeway. There are 4 states that we cannot do on-demand blood testing for at this time. It's New York, Maryland. There's 2 others, and it's right in the FAQ. I should have prepared myself. I think I got sidetracked and forgot to write down the other 2, but you can always ask me. 4 states in the continental United States total where you cannot do your own on-demand blood serum testing. You go to, say, for example, I would go to Duluth to Essentia Health Clinic where they do Quest, and the requisition would already be there, but I could actually take the one from my email and print it and bring it with me in case they didn't have it for some reason. And usually by the next day, or if it's on a weekend, if you order it Friday night, you should have it Monday. You give it, and your results will come right back to you through an email. You can take those results to your doctor and say, I went ahead and ordered a $159 test and had these tests run to save my insurance or to satisfy my curiosity. And now I know, and I'm going to tell you that there's another test out there that you and your doctor may not have heard of that I've learned about through your lab work, which is where I participate, which is why I brought it on to my website, paid to be a member myself and bring it on. And it's called an LPA. And 1 in 5 people has a very elevated LPA. And I would definitely recommend that you do this test if this is something that's concerning you and you have had cardiac issues. You've had a lot of them in your family on a multi-generational level. Get it done. Appease your mind. Find out your cholesterol particle size, because if it's large, moderate to large, you do have something to really be concerned about. And I think if your doctor had that information, maybe didn't know, or like you said, you had a big deductible, so you decided to pay the $159. Maybe you could even submit that to your insurance and show that as part of your deductible to start it, accruing. But that LPA test, and if you'll look at the healthy blood vessels, 175, that's a grouping, or the inflammation, 159, that might really help you quite a bit. Okay, so you can go through the blood testing on my website at Naturally with Karen, click on lab, click on blood or hair, click on blood, and read about all the different tests that you can take. They're affordable, they're easy to do, except for in those 4 states, okay? You can read about each test and why you might want to take that test and make a custom panel for yourself or do a standard panel. Totally easy to do. Private, Quest blood draw, encrypted email comes back to you, no potential for violation. So now we're going to end right here at 50 minutes. I can't believe we went that long. I prepared for about 2 hours today just thinking about this. Somebody asked me a question today and yesterday about atrial fibrillation. And I said, well, it's not like it's happening for no good reason. I mean, it's a pretty clear-cut reason as to why the heart rhythm is off balance. We're not connecting with nature. We're not connecting with tree-ripened, non-sprayed, real food, potentiated with nutrient density and high mineral levels. We don't drink water anymore that was fresh flowing off the rocks. I mean, more and more, I see people with plastic bottles of stale fluid called water that's been sitting on a shelf, and they're doing something better. It's an upgrade from pouring it out of the faucet where there's fluoride, most likely, chlorine, cryptosporidiums, and all sorts of other bacteriums. However, water sitting stored in a plastic bottle, perhaps even absorbing endocrine disrupting BPA, bisphenol A, destroys your hormones, destroys your glands. We need to get water filtration today, which is another stressor placed upon us when we used to have crystal clean water. And if you're going, well, duh, Karen, we don't have that. Why don't we work on that? Why don't we think about that? Why? Let me take my reading glasses off. Actually, I don't need to live with my reading glasses on. Put my ring back on. I was crying today. I had a hard time sleeping last night. People have asthma, allergies, addictions, obsessive compulsive disorder, ADHD, bipolar, schizophrenia, in the mental, the physical, and the spiritual realms. Of course, they have heart issues. The heart of our world is nature. Not inside the house, nature outside. The heart of our world is nature. And we're not as connected to nature as we used to be. We don't walk barefoot, we all wear shoes. We don't get sunlight on the body, we slather sunscreen on. So it's not a wonder to me as to why we no longer have the hormone that is vitamin D, which is also a corticosteroid. Okay. But these are things, and no, this is not any kind of symbolism of the New World Order or anything like that, which one reader was asking me. It's me making the heart sign with my hands, which is something that Rastafari elders always do, is they make the heart sign with their hand, okay? So we're going to make kind of a little heart sign before we leave. I have real medicine, which took me my entire life to overstand at the level that I do, to be able to simultaneously hold the word sound, the mind body, watching the face, the facial lines, seeing how comfortable a person is in their own skin. How connected are they to nature? How do they walk out on the earth, with the earth? How do they speak with people instead of to them? How direct are they? Or how passive aggressive? Okay. How capable are they to change their way of life? It's never a judging. But someday, maybe you're an elder now yourself, meaning over 55, but an elder is, in the case of Kim, right? Kim is an elder to her daughter, who's 8 years old, right? I'm an elder to Kim, who's 40. I believe you're 40. I'm an elder to my son, who's 23, right? I'm his elder. Dr. Sabi was an elder to me while he was here in the physical, Maria Gambutis was an elder to me, is an elder to me, right? So we learn from the elders and the children, but in a different way. And because of what's gone on, it's important that we have unmedicated elders with integrity to come together and to help us instead of placing the burden all on one president, all on one Congress member, right? When more people are involved and we're less reliant on constantly checking ourselves because of our way of life, we are checking and checking and checking ourselves. We're checking ourselves so much. And we wouldn't normally have to if we were much more connected to nature. And so sometimes when my clients will say, do you have a movie that you recommend? Because I don't really watch many movies and I've had a TV out of my house for over 30 years. So I will sometimes say, why don't you get the movie Avatar and why don't you watch a cooperating community of people that also had an elder woman who was a shaman? It's the closest thing I can recommend to you. Okay. So give thanks, Kim. I really appreciate the love. Your heart is very important. You need to have certain key minerals in balance. You need to know if there's toxic elements. You need to do some prevention. You can't just run to the doctor and check when you know something's wrong. I mean, you need to do that too, don't get me wrong. But you also need to take the next step for yourself that maybe someone isn't going to do for you. Bring the report in. If your doctor says, well, I don't know how to read this, then sit down with me and read it because that's something that maybe they don't do. And I will review your hair tissue mineral analysis because I have had the time to read about finding hidden toxicities, to know about what to do with toxic elements and heavy metals. Why are they heavy metals? Because they're heavy on an atomic weight level. So my son's outside waiting to get in. I told him, don't be walking past the screen tonight. Okay. Be well. We're all going to eventually get through the stressors that face us, but it's good to have what I call original medicine right alongside everything else that you're doing. Okay. So I'll say so long for now. Be sure to subscribe. Show me that you really want to see more. Show me by subscribing, asking your friends to subscribe. Show me by posting the videos. Show me by asking intelligent, well-meaning questions. Because I'm an elder. I'm not here to play or be disrespected or, I'm not generating any hate towards doctors or anybody else's methodology. Everyone can choose what they want to do. Okay. Give thanks and so long.